Meeting to order. Today is May 2nd, 2018, and the time is 7:30 p.m. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by a posting on the bulletin board of Village Hall, by mail to the Ridgewood News, the record, and by submission to all persons entitled to same, as provided by law of a schedule, including the date and time of this meeting. Roll call.
Councilman Hache.
Here.
Councilman Seaton.
Here.
Councilman Voigt.
Here.
Councilwoman Walsh.
Here.
Mayor Knudsen.
Here. Please stand for the flag salute.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join us in a moment of silence for all men and women serving our nation, all of our first responders, and all those people suffering and victims of senseless violence. Thank you. With that, we'll move on to public comment, 3 minutes per person, not to exceed a total of 40 minutes. Please come to the name and address. Good evening. Tap on the
There
microphone.
it is.
There we go.
Okay, good evening. Ellie Gruber, 229 South Irving. Last week, a very disturbing campaign flyer from Alexander Harwin was mailed to residents in Ridgewood, accusing Mayor Knudsen and Deputy Mayor Seaton of supporting Nazism. Not only is it disgraceful and wrong, but it echoed a time in this country when this type of propaganda ruined thousands of lives. For 3 solid months in 1954, before all of you were born, our country was transfixed. Maybe not you. Okay, sorry. Our country was transfixed by events in Washington, D.C. Senator Joseph McCarthy was one of the most feared people in the United States because he took it upon himself to, as he put it, root out communism. The President and Congress did nothing to stop him. He falsely accused many people of being communists. He ruined lives. He caused suicides. He was allowed to run roughshod over this country until he finally overreached. He angered the U.S. Army because he wanted a favor and the Army would not grant it. And from April to June in 1954, this country was transfixed on what is now known as the Army-McCarthy hearings. The Army hired a well-respected lawyer named Joseph Welch, and day, after Welch debunked doctored photographs, secret lists, Senator McCarthy reached and falsely accused Mr. Welch's young aide of having ties to communist organization, thus threatening to ruin that man's life. Welch then spoke these words, which go down in history, and ultimately resulted in the end of Joseph McCarthy. And I quote, "Until this moment, Senator, I think I never really gauged your cruelty or your recklessness. Let us not assassinate this lad further, Senator. You have done enough. Have you no sense of decency at long last?" The mailings by the challengers do not contain a positive program. They are only false and misleading character assassinations against the mayor, the deputy mayor, family members, and finally, the most awful of all, accusation about ties to Nazism? Horrible. What happened to issues? All the campaign rhetoric about civility, anti-bullying, this is a joke. Residents must reject these candidates and send a strong message that this will not be tolerated. This is enough, and we have to ask, have they no sense of decency at long last? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Hans-Jürgen Lehmann, 234 Union Street. Just on a little lighthearted side, it was so much fun the last time around, I thought I'd come back.
Hans, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Could you just speak a little more clearly into
Sure.
the microphone? Thank you.
Happy to. It was so much fun the last time around, I thought I'd come back. I do have to say that sending 4 police officers for a shouting match was a bit over the top. made me think how easily my First Amendment rights can be suppressed. I watched the meeting at home and was interested by the comments made by a resident. I don't know the gentleman, but I gather from his name that he is Irish. My wife and I spent a week in Dublin just this past January, and I came away from the experience certain in the knowledge that the Irish are by far the nicest people on this planet. So I was a bit puzzled by his comment about the pig and the mud, which raised some approval in this room. Is the mayor the pig and I've been muddied, or is it the other way around? Either way, we get muddy. So let's get muddy one more time. These comments are for the mayor and deputy mayor. I have heard that sometime in 2015, you invited members of 240 Associates, whose principal is, I think it's J.T. Bolger, to tour the Shedler property with, I guess, the thought in mind that you might approach them for financial assistance with the house. At that time, 240 Associates had its Chestnut Village development under consideration before the village, first the planning board and then the council. I think an explanation is in order from someone here how this is not unethical conduct on your part, meeting with a developer who has a vested interest in your approval on their pending project. Once again, the optics are so poor. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Rourke, Hallaby, 374 Evergreen Place. Thank you, Hans-Jürgen. So ironic that this gentleman and gentleman, a Quaker, who would not hurt a fly, who was born in Nazi Germany and who grew up in Soviet East Germany, is threatened with arrest by 4 Ridgewood police officers for committing the crime of exercising his rights under the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. Shame on the mayor for calling the police. Mr. Lehman was no threat to her or anyone. Once and for all, I wish the mayor and deputy mayor would have the decency to admit they misled the residents of Ridgewood when they adamantly claimed that it was a state of New Jersey mandate that municipalities give priority to residents for public safety positions. There is no such mandate. It is up to the municipality itself to determine that. I understand Glenrock has no such requirement. The mayor should also admit that when she argued so vociferously for the village to maintain this requirement, she did not disclose her sons were on the waiting list. Shame on the mayor. Now, I attended the League of Women Voters debate, and yet again the mayor, in typical style, dominated the debate with the sheer strength of her personality, and frankly was very rude to Ms. Harwin and Ms. Willett. I was amazed also by the mayor's Oscar-winning facial gesticulations, her grimaces, grins, smirks, and frankly also beatific smiles to her supporters. An amazing way to behave from someone who claims to have reintroduced civility to public discourse. The mayor claimed in the debate that she and the deputy mayor flew the rainbow flag at Village Hall, but that somehow it mysteriously was taken down. No other people remember this. I'd love to see a picture of the rainbow flag flying over Village Hall. Now, the mayor claims in her League of Women Voters resume that she had served as COO of a multi-million-dollar corporation. What corporation was that? I'd like to know. I'd like to know people's background. The mayor claimed in the debate that Ridgewood has reciprocal agreements with other towns to allow them to use Grayson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hallaby.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Linda McNamara, 575 Knickerbocker Road. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I am here tonight to praise the current council and village manager under the leadership of Mayor Knudsen and Deputy Mayor Mike Seaton for the myriad of accomplishments that have occurred during the last 2 years. One, the Valley Hospital expansion has been an ongoing debate and a source of contention for years. It has been resolved. Valley will expand its footprint in Paramus, and our surrounding neighborhoods will remain intact. Two, the garage. Ever since the Hudson Street firehouse was taken down, the conversation is centered on a parking garage at that location. We are now in the process of building one that will once again fit in the footprint, maintain on-street parking, and the design of which is more than acceptable. Three, master plan. A much-needed comprehensive plan revision is in the works, and money has been allocated for the project that will ensure that Ridgewood maintains its unique character for years to come. Four, tree inventory and green issues. For the first time in many years, there is money in the budget. A grant writer has been hired, and we are actively addressing long-standing environmental concerns. Five, Shedler. This council has saved the Shedler Zabriskie House, put together an ad hoc committee to address land use issues, and has applied and has received matching grants to help finance the costs involved. No one was listening to us for years. We were faced with the destruction of over 4 acres of trees, a 90-foot baseball diamond, and the possibility of a sports complex open to the county, bordering Route 17, all with a huge impact on the residents living in that area. We lost Isabel Altano, but this council, if it remains as is, has ensured that her mighty efforts will not be in vain. For these reasons and a host of others, including a 0.98% tax increase, under 1%, in case I said it wrong, not 98%.
Zero. We put the zero in
This would
front.
be
0
awful.
point.
I should be shot for saying it. I am supporting Susan and Mike in the coming election on May 8th. Please join me in voting for the incumbents to ensure continued progress and resolution of issues facing our village. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Don Delzio, Donna 636 Upper Boulevard. Donna and I have spoke a couple of times today. I am here to talk about 2 topics, residency requirements and nepotism. I think these are incredibly simple concepts that have been so overblown, and if these flyers that are going back and forth between the town, around the towns, if the mayor would stop throwing all this uncertainty and fear and doubt about these topics, it's really quite clear. It's so simple. Your flyer, Mayor, lists the things that you didn't do on regarding the residency requirements. I would agree with you. You didn't do A, B, and C that you list in your flyer. But if the 4 years that you've been here are marked by anything, it's not what you say that causes the problem with the town, it's what you don't say. And so what you didn't say was that in that 2014 council resolution, and I was in the room when this happened, on the matter of the civil service hires and the vote that you cast that night that was conflicted, you, as we now know were ensuring that your adult children would have priority based on their residency. And we now know that. And it would be a simple matter if you had just recused yourself from the vote at that time. But you didn't do it then, haven't done it since. The entire issue with that resolution was a discussion about the residency line, whether it was just within Ridgewood or whether it was the broader scope of county residents, which is fine. It's simple to understand. But the mayor at the time, advocating for the tighter screen, the smaller bracket of applicants on the civil service list, did not disclose at that time in 2014 that your sons had taken the civil service exam and with the obvious potential of advancing their ranking on said civil service ranking. And that's exactly what happened. I'm greatly encouraged by the buzz around town in the last week. I was greatly encouraged by the debate the other night. I feel that there's a good buzz from the residents, unlike previous elections for the council, where so few people get involved and so few people really understand what's going on. There's a good buzz around town as to why is the mayor lying? And I'm happy that this has finally come to bear. I mean,
I'm being called a liar.
Yeah, you can't, we have a demeanor. I went through it the last time at some of the meetings.
No problem.
I'd like to just make a formal censor or something of that statement because it's so grossly inappropriate and inaccurate.
That's your opinion, that's fine.
No, it is inappropriate and
That's
it is
fine.
inaccurate.
Your opinion.
So kindly follow protocol.
Fine. Second area that's been misstated is whether or not an anti-nepotism ordinance can be applied to civil service hiring. You said no. That's a fact. The clear evidence is that it is allowed in a growing number of other New Jersey municipalities, and they're doing exactly that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor.
Could I ask Matt a question? Is that possible? Okay. This is from the Bergen Record. Okay, I just want to get your interpretation of this. It says the incumbents, Mayor Knudsen and Deputy Mayor Seaton, reiterated statements from last week's council meeting by Village Council Attorney Matt Rogers, who said on advice from the Village Labor Council that a residency requirement is state mandated for any municipality designated a civil service community and that the village has no control over such a proviso. Is that correct?
There's a number of different issues that are involved in this. Let's talk just firstly about nepotism. Last week the comment was that if you jumped in civil service, which creates an eligible list of candidates, if you jumped or bypassed any of those candidates based upon familial relations, that is against the civil service statute. So when you're talking about nepotism and civil service, family relationships is not one of the criteria that deals with preferences in civil service. And no matter what a municipality would do, it can't create a jump or a bypass based upon familiar relationships. Nobody gave an opinion that I'm aware of with regard to an anti-nepotism ordinance and civil service. Council hasn't discussed it yet. We haven't gotten into it. I certainly didn't give an opinion last week with regard to it. You can have an anti-nepotism ordinance, if the council so likes, and still be a civil service community for police and fire. So those two things can go along, but that's up to the council to decide if that's something that they want to do. So, but we haven't discussed that yet, and we haven't dealt with it, and since I've been the village attorney, it hasn't been brought up. The second issue with regard to the residency and civil service, the residency requirement. After the meeting, Jeff and I had a number of conversations with regard to try and straighten this out and try and find out what was going on. I told him I'd go back to the Village Labor Council to try and find out what his position was and talk to him about just whether or not if a village does not have a residency requirement in his ordinance, do we still have to follow the civil service? Because over the years, according to our manager, the village has followed that civil service has a residency requirement mandate, and that's a preference. And if you look at Title 40A 14-123.1A, one of the four criteria in terms of preferences listed there is residency of the municipality. And in that discussion, the labor attorney, and again, I'm not the labor attorney, this is really kind of out of my bailiwick, but the labor attorney said that it's interpretive if that is the case, and he said that the actions of the village in doing that or relying on civil service for that purpose was justifiable, but it's discretionary as to whether or not a municipality wants to have a residency requirement ordinance. That's consistent with civil service. So the village could, if it wanted to, amend the existing ordinance, which is Code Section 357, could rescind it, could upgrade it, because if you read our ordinance deals with the requirement that anybody who is, as of the date of that ordinance, anybody who was employed or hired as a ground level employee by the police department or fire department as a police officer or a firefighter must become a resident on the effective date of that particular ordinance. So that was the way it was applied back then. It hasn't been changed since, but as I said before, the manager has talked about the fact that the practice in this village has always been that the requirement is mandated by the civil service. So the labor attorney says that civil service is a bear and that it's interpretive as to whether or not one is required by the other. He's not aware of any case law or court interpretations with regard to it, and that's the way his position was stated. I'm also aware of the fact that civil service says that an ordinance requirement by a municipality is discretionary, and that civil service, if there is a residency requirement in an ordinance, will, when it develops, because the Civil Service Commission prepares the eligibility list after the test is done, and they consider preferences in there, they will classify the eligible candidates according to those preferences. The priority, I think, from what I understand, above all, is given to veterans. And then, after that, it goes along with the list in 14-123.1A, and then goes, I forget what those ones are, but it says residency of a municipality, and then three other ones that are also preferences. So I don't know if that answers anybody's question, but again, this is something that looks like it's interpretive, but certainly it's discretionary on the village if it wants that residency requirement in its ordinances.
So I just want to make sure it's possible for us to have a nepotism, but also it's possible for us, based, there was the concern about this is a state mandate, we cannot bypass the state mandate. We have discretion in that, based on the law.
When you say we have discretion, I think that needs to be defined. What do you mean by that?
So if we put together a ordinance, and in that ordinance we decided to have as the number one criteria non-residents, okay? And a perfect example of that is a large city in New Jersey who's looking for police people, and they can't fill the number of police positions. So they could open it up basically to non-residents. And they could be a Title 11, they could be a civil service town, and they could open it up for that very fact. Now, that's what was told to me by the NGA Civil Service the other day. I talked with a woman named Becky Evans, who was in their compliance department, and she said that's possible. Now, I also talked to Tom Chisholm today, who happens to be the New Jersey Civil Service Commission Human Resources Consultant for Ridgewood. And he said the following. He said that we could change our ordinance if we so choose. We could send that ordinance to them at the Civil Service, and they could interpret it and say whether or not it was possible or not based on the law. So those things are possible. It's not like it's not possible.
Okay. Well, first of all, again, I'm not labor attorney. You're asking the wrong person. Civil Service has to review any ordinance that is established by a municipal entity that affects or impacts civil service and has to approve it. Yeah. So it's not that anything other than they say that whatever your ordinance is, it's got to be consistent with the civil service regulations. Yeah. I don't know if you're able to adopt an ordinance that gives a preference to non-residents. I have never seen a non-residence. What I have seen is that municipalities, and usually the bigger urban areas, either don't give a preference directly to residents or give a tiered preference to residents, non-residents, county, state, and that way, so that they're able to fulfill the gaps. And this only deals with initial hires, from what I understand, not with those that are taken in as captains or higher-ups or, more of the management positions in the police department.
All right, Matt, we're going to move on, but before we do move on, I just want to make a clarification, because Many of these instances are Title 11A versus non-Title 11A, and somebody raised Glen Rock, and Glen Rock, I do believe, is a chief's test, is not organized under Title 11A, so it's apples and oranges. And,
See, and that's
I'm talking about
yeah.
Title 11A.
So we're going to
talking
move, we're going to move
specifically
on.
Can I just, because
We're going to move
can I
on.
just say one thing? Because I'm trying to figure out what we're trying to accomplish here, because we went through this last week.
Yes.
So is it that, Councilman Boyd, are you against giving Ridgewood residents, members of our community, priority for Ridgewood jobs, assuming that they're the most qualified candidates, and given to non-residents?
I'm not that.
What's the end game? Because we're going in circles here.
Yeah, no, I'm concerned about the adamancy of the argument last week that I was wrong, that residents only are required, and that's the state mandate. And I find out that I'm right.
So, Matt,
Well, let me just
Matt,
respond.
can I just really want to move on with the meeting. I just want to make 2 points, and I'm going to let you go in just 1 minute. I just want to make 2 points before you continue so that you'll be able to weigh in on those properly. Point 1 is that, once again, not all municipalities are organized under 11A. And also, because the list was public, that there's an allegation that I hid something, it's a public list, and it was disseminated to the village manager before I was ever elected, and so all of my council colleagues were knowledgeable at the time. But the one thing I do want to say, and this is where it's really relevant, Matt, and this you can explain to members of the public who are clearly confused, what I would suggest is that when a test is called for, and the requirements of that test are outlined by civil service in 2013. Is there anything that could have happened in 2014 that could have changed a promulgated list that was certified by the state of New Jersey for the 2013 Civil Service Department of Personnel administered Lee test, which is law enforcement entry exam? So the question is, simply put, could any action in 2014 pertaining to any residency, even if we did have that jurisdiction, could anything have changed that certified state list from 2013?
Again, I'm not the labor attorney.
Right.
This is not what I do or the services that I've ever provided to the village. That which I understand about civil service is that the state sets the test, they put the criteria down for the test, they conduct the test, they determine the candidates who have passed the test, they establish the eligibility list, and that is it. They establish the eligibility list in a certain process that involves the preferences that are under the statute and any ordinances that either are in effect at that time when they give the test. So whatever was there at the time.
Thank you. So
Secondly,
sorry,
so
go
I can
ahead.
respond to Jeff. Secondly, it has been the practice over the years by the village of Ridgewood, and this goes before me, that the residential preference or requirement is something that they've done every time there's a civil service test. And then, that's what I understand. And then with regard to Jeff's questions last week, if I said, Jeff, you were wrong, which I don't believe I said you were wrong, but I think I may have disagreed with what you were saying about the residency ordinance, we are able to decide, that the council can look at the residency ordinances and decide if they want to change it, revise it, do whatever they want to do with it. I would suggest if they want to do that, they get a hold of Labor Council, because I'm not the guy. So so that is that. And if I said that you were wrong if you asked that question, then I was wrong. There is discretion. So.
Thank you.
I just had one more question, Matt, and this is an easy one, I promise. In 2014, when this whole discussion came about, was it focused on non-public safety to change the residency requirement?
Okay, you would have to go back through the record.
I've done that. I clearly remember that it was dealing with non-public safety, so police, fire were not included, and it was for civilian jobs like mechanics and clerk typists and everything else.
I have not gone through the record. I have not looked at the minutes and taken a look at that, because I know that these are issues for the election, and I try and stay far away from it as I can, even though I'm right in the middle of it. So
So we're going to continue with public comment, and we just really want to say that the truth matters in this. So hopefully everybody's paying attention. Read the minutes, go to the meeting, listen to the whole thing, not to where you're directed by some people. Pay attention, read everything. We welcome everyone. We want you to know the truth, and we're grateful for that. So come on up. Good evening.
Hi, Annette Testa. I reside at 297 Highwood Avenue. My family, including my husband and 3 children, have lived in Ridgewood for 20 years. We moved to Ridgewood to raise our family. I wanted a town where I could be active after deciding to leave a job where I worked as an executive at a top French fashion company. In addition, we're looking for a town with great public schools. I stand before you as a mom and a very active village resident. I've been HSA president for 2 schools, secretary, multiple board members, major fundraiser at Our Lady of Mount Carmel Church, where we raised $100,000 under my leadership, so very active. I do not have an Ivy League education, but my husband has multiple degrees from an Ivy League school, and my daughter will soon be graduating from his alma mater. Does it make them better people? No, it does not. Do they throw it in my face? No, they don't. In many ways, I feel equal or even superior to my husband, partly because of my involvement with our village. On another note, we're huge supporters of sports. All of our kids have played multiple sports. But I believe strongly that keeping Ridgewood from being another Hackensack is more important than fields. High-density housing could add so many children to our school system, and that's really what's important. So I'm here to say thank you to Mayor Knutson and Deputy Mayor Seaton for being such strong leaders. Also, thank you to Councilman Hache for defending my church, Our Lady of Mount Carmel. It's sad that others involved in village council or running for council did not support their church. Mayor Knutson, I admire you greatly for your poise and civility especially. When others feel the need to make up false claims about my church, OLMC, Jamboree, which as a participant I know firsthand that I, along with everyone else who participates in Jamboree, loses money by volunteering, as well as numerous other lies, you take the high road. You are much appreciated by so many villagers. Stay strong. I want to say, if my daughters grow up to be half the woman that you are, I would be a happy mama. We need you, Mayor Knutson and Deputy Mayor Seaton. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dana Glazer, 61 Clinton Avenue.
Dana, just
sorry,
speak into the
louder.
microphone. Can't hear you.
Okay. Is that better?
Pull it closer to you.
better.
That would be
Excellent.
better.
Okay. I just want to say that on Saturday, my son and my daughter and I will be out canvassing for you, Mayor and Deputy Mayor, and with a lot of pleasure doing that, because we believe that you guys have done a fantastic job and continue to do a great job with our town. We trust you. We trust that you have our better interests at heart. And so we are in full support of you, as are many, many people I know. And so to be sitting here and to listen to the ambushes and the character assassinations is very, very upsetting for me. You know, it strikes me to take, I usually don't bring it up here because it's a nonpartisan government. I think it's wonderful that way. I wish that every municipality was that way, but I'm a progressive Democrat, and to take issues that are progressive issues and to weaponize them and to use them against you in this sort of election is wrong. And I find it very upsetting. I find it very upsetting that that's happening. I received this in the mail on Friday, and there are two things on here. One that's a very correct statement, and one that's a very wrong statement. The first statement is, a right-wing blog using Ridgewood's name compared Ridgewood High School students and Parkland students to Nazis. Susan Knudsen still contributes to it. On the bottom of the page it says, this isn't what Ridgewood stands for. Well, this isn't what Ridgewood stands for. This isn't what Ridgewood stands for. And I want to also note at the top of this page, for those of you who are watching this, paid for by Harwin for Council. This didn't come from some third party. This came from the council, from the candidate herself. And I find this very upsetting. And so I wanted to say this to you. And I just want you to know that you have my full support. And, you know, to take things out of context that are wrong, you know, it's like her emails, her emails, her emails, her emails. Shame on people who do that. That's wrong. That's creating a lie that creates confusion among voters, and that's wrong. And we all know that that's wrong. So anybody who does that, shame on them. Let's talk about the issues. Let's talk about the master plan. Let's talk about making this a better village. Continue the work that you're doing. I'm in full support of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good with the clock? Yeah, but no, we're good. 'Cause
Thank
Matt-
you very
Matt did
much.
a lot of talking, sorry.
Okay, that's okay. Gail McCarthy, 153 Hope Street. Proud wife of a very smart, funny Irishman. Well respected as well. I was on my way over here. I was actually not going to come here tonight, but I was on my way over to another board meeting at the high school, and I excitedly received an email, and I'd like to read it to all of you. It says, please forward to the cast, crew, and backstage heroes. It is from one of the 4 producers of 2019's Jamboree. Please see the attached email from the Jamboree Board of Trustees. To the cast, crew, and backstage heroes, each year Jamboree is fortunate to have many volunteers who support the Jamboree Scholarship Fund by donating some combination of money, time, and services. This spirit of volunteerism has allowed us to provide more than $550,000 of college scholarships to qualified Ridgewood students over the past 4 years. At the outset, it is important to note that as a 501c3 organization, Jamboree Scholarship Fund does not engage in political activity, and as such, we do not endorse candidates for elected office at any level. Furthermore, our policies are explicit that the use of mailing lists, email lists, or other contact data obtained in connection with volunteering for or providing services to the fund for any other purpose is forbidden. Like many other volunteers, Susan Knudsen has devoted countless hours to Jamboree. She is not paid for her photography services. Thank you to the entire Jamboree community once again for your continued support of the Jamboree Scholarship Fund. Sincerely, the Board of Trustees of the Jamboree Scholarship Fund. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay. With that, we will close public comment and move the meeting.
Okay, discussion items. First item, 6A1, Ridgewood Water. Award of a contract for roof repairs at 10 locations in Ridgewood Water facilities. This is 10 of 80 locations that have been prioritized for roof replacement. 3 quotes were obtained for the work. The lowest of the 3 quotes is American Construction Chimney and Roofing Specialists of Cliffside Park in the amount of $38,000.
Questions or comments, anyone? Will be reviewed. I just wanted to say this is one of my favorite documents. We see everything. It's very clear, and we appreciate that.
Thank you. Okay, our next item under parking, 6B1 is a proposed ordinance for on-street valet unloading and loading for the steel wheel on North Broad Street. This consists of the first 3 parallel metered parking spaces south from the southerly curb line of Franklin Avenue, If you're familiar with the area, these are those spots that are just past the driveway to the bank. So those spots are proposed to become an unloading and loading zone for valet parking during the hours of 5 p.m. and 2 a.m. on all days.
Sorry, Rich, so where will they, did they identify where the overflow parking will be? Which lot?
They haven't. I could follow up on that.
So this is, Rich, this is 7 days? Are they open 7 days?
I don't know, but it's proposed for all days.
All days?
Yes. I believe they're open Sundays.
Really?
I don't know about
They were
Monday.
open Sunday.
Yeah.
I think it would be helpful to have Councilman Hashay's question answered as well. So any other questions?
Yeah, obviously that's a really congested area, and I'm just really struggling with how this is going to work there, because you have cars coming in and out of that driveway. You also have an unsafe condition all the time with double parkers right there. So I'm curious as to... Yeah, and then you have the traffic lights, so I'm really concerned as to how this is going to logistically work. So I don't know if when the village manager comes back, or if you guys want to talk more about it this evening. I just can't see how it's going to not be an unsafe condition.
Yeah, I think we would have to have, public safety officials weigh in, engineering and things like that to make us really understand this, because I agree it's a tough spot right there. It's really busy and there's cars all over. There's the driveway, there's the lights, so I'd like to hear from them.
Would they consider limited days if this was something that...
I'm making note of it. I'll review all these with Ms. Maylander, and Mr. Ritthauser are going to be here tonight. He wrote the ordinance. I'm sure he has some of the answers already.
Yeah.
But I jotted them all down, and I'll get the clarification for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, so we'll get that together.
All right. Okay, the next item is under budget, 6C1. This is the award of a contract for animal control services and waterfowl management. This is good timing considering bears seem to have taken a liking to Ridgewood. This is a 2-year contract, runs from July 1st, 2018 through June 30th of 2020. The recommendation from the health officer for Tyco is the contractor in the amount of $31,200 per year. Following with her memo, and I did speak with her today, Tyco has been the vendor for over 10 years. And just from the most recent incident, she said the comments out in the field from the state, they said they were very impressed with the reaction time and the services that were provided by Tyco for the incident.
So I just need to point out that Tyco was like the star of the show with our little bear, and they were absolutely professional, and I think we're fortunate to have them on board. So, any questions or anything?
Okay, next item is under policy 6D2. This is a proclamation that's proposed for the next public meeting. The title is National Gun Violence Awareness Day for May 9th, for the May 9th public meeting.
Any questions? Okay, moving on.
Can I just ask, why is this as a discussion item? Why?
I don't know the answer to that question.
I think it was
just read the proclamations. So.
Yeah, it's just usually on the review of the public meeting, so it's a little odd, but did everybody read it? Does anyone have any questions about that? I mean, I'm pretty sure that this is one we've...
yeah, we did it last year.
We've done in the past.
Yeah, I just thought that there was maybe a discussion on it.
No?
That it was on the agenda.
Not at all, it was just there.
Okay.
Okay, moving on.
Okay, the final two items are under operation. We have 6E1, which is revisions to the skate park use rules. I reviewed these today with Ms. Bigos, who couldn't be here tonight. The changes proposed are to eliminate sections in the ordinance that cover the fees for the badges to utilize the facility, and then the addition of conduct rules, in particular the non-smoking statement to eliminate the perimeter requirement 25 feet, and to replace it with no smoking within the skate park or the surrounding park lands, and to add scooters to the list of prohibited uses in that skate park.
Do we have any questions on this? Okay. I think we're good. I think we've gotten there with this. We've worked through it. We're good.
Great. And our final item is 6E2. This is the approval for an application for a community development block grant. This will be a grant under the category public service for furniture purchase for the senior center. They're looking to purchase 12 new tables in the amount of $7,835. This will be a full grant, not matching 100%. I reviewed it today with Ms. Fricky. The intention here is to buy flip-top tables that are easy to fold, take up less of an area when they're stored, and can be folded with just by one person. They'll be on casters and be able to roll easily out of place. So this is for the application for that grant.
No questions or no questions?
It's been discussed at the Community Center Advisory Board.
Mr. Calby, I just wanted to say something going back to the ordinance regarding the valet parking. I was present at a meeting with Mr. Rooney, Mr. Brutushauser, Mrs. Maylander, and Sergeant Chuck regarding the application for the valet parking. So I think Mrs. Maylander will have answers to all of those questions.
Oh, good. Great. Thank you, Donna.
Sure.
Okay. Now moving on to manager's report.
Okay. It's going to be a quick one.
Okay.
So you all have in front of you a copy of the budget newsletter, and this was literally edited, about an hour ago. Originally, I was going to say that it's printed and will be in everybody's mailboxes this weekend, but it's actually at the post office. It should be delivered starting tomorrow. So residents will receive the budget newsletter tomorrow, probably through Friday. Contains all details on the proposed budget. The second item, the public hearing on this budget for 2018 will take place on May 9th, right here in the Village Council meeting room at 8 o'clock p.m. Just a reminder, Election Day is Tuesday, May 8th. Polls are open from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. 4 candidates are running for 2 four-year positions on the Village Council. And the final item, a free rabies clinic and microchipping event will be held Wednesday, May 16th at the Grade and Pool parking lot on Northern Parkway from 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. That's all.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Boyd?
The planning board met last night. The major topic of discussion was a subdivision at 401 Mountain Ave, which is a 2.5-acre lot. They wanted to divide that into 3 parcels. The main parcel, which is on Mountain, will remain essentially as is, which is about, these are very large parcels, 52,500 square feet. The other parcels behind this, which are on Highland Ave, are going to be split in half. So there'll be 227,500 square feet each parcels. There were no variances in the application. They called it a minor subdivision. However, there were several issues with the calculations on the drawings. Some of them were incorrect and they needed to be adjusted. So we've asked them to come back for May 15th to revisit these particular issues. I just want to shout out to Toiletry Tuesday. Sue Ulrich at Ridgecrest Senior Housing wanted to thank everybody for their generosity in coordinating and donating over 2,200 essential items during Toiletry Tuesday 2018. These items are going to be used to significantly enhance programming and for emergency resident needs. It's really a wonderful way to celebrate Ridgecrest's 34th anniversary and National Older Americans Month. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Deputy Mayor.
I'll do my report next week. Thank you.
Good. Okay, Councilwoman.
I just have Ridgewood Arts Council. So I've talked about this. We have Scott Rosenfeld coming next week, May 10th, at the Film Festival. So it's going to be Thursday evening. Red carpet starts at 6:30 for anybody that's interested in walking the red carpet, but our event's going to start at 7:30. The tickets are $10 a person. They're for sale at Daily Treat, Mango Jam, and The Stable. And we encourage everybody to come to the film festival. You can come into our theater and see our Scott Rosenfeld presentation, but you can also, with that ticket, go into any of the other theaters and see what else is going on at the film festival. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilman Hache.
nothing to report from committee land. We have next week, we have the Central Business District Advisory Committee meeting on Thursday, 8:30 a.m., right downstairs. Just a reminder that next Wednesday, May 9th, at about 7 o'clock, it starts. It's the Ridgewood Guild Film Festival. It's the 8th annual film festival. It's always a great event. Just encourage everyone to attend. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Great. So I only have, unfortunately, have to miss the Ridgewood Arts Council.
Because
and
that's Isabella's.
yes, because
right?
the historic Bergen
Yeah.
County Historic Preservation Commission
Yeah.
will have its award ceremony, and Isabella Altana will be the recipient posthumously of the Historic Preservation Leadership Award. And so it's a really touching and moving event, and so that's where I'll be. And with that, I guess we're moving back to public comment.
I need to
Oh, no,
do-
I'm sorry. Oops, not yet. Sorry. I just realized. Agenda. Go through that agenda.
This is
That's
the
okay.
agenda for the May 9th, 2018 public meeting agenda. Under proclamations, National Cancer Survivors Day, Emergency Medical Services Week, proclaim May as Mental Health Month, proclaim May as Older Americans Month, proclaim June as Gay Pride Month, proclaim National Gun Violence Awareness Day. Police Department Awards and Recognition, CPR, SAVE, Assisting in Birth of Baby with Umbilical Cord Around Its Neck, Life Saving Award, Honorable Service Award, Life Saving Awards for Choking Victim, Grand Cordon Medal, Andrew K. Ruotolo, Junior Membership Scholarship Recipient. Adoption of Ordinances 3643, establish a cap bank. 2018 budget hearing, overview of 2018 budget, Village Council comments, public hearing on 2018 budget. Resolution 18, adopt 2018 budget. Ordinances, introduction for Ridgewood Water, there are none. Public hearing for Ridgewood Water, 3642, Water Utility Capital Ordinance, and resolutions for Ridgewood Water. Titled 59, approval for landscaping services. Award contract landscaping services. Title 59, approval roof repairs at various village water facilities. Award contract roof repairs at various village water facilities. Authorized change order number 2, water mainstream crossings. Authorized change number 2, installation of backup power at critical facilities. Ordinances for introduction. 3639, tentative for amend ordinance 3638, rules and regulations for skate park. 3646, establish valet parking area on North Broad Street. 3647, amend Chapter 190, land use and development, establish regulations for blade signs in Central Business District. Number 3648, amend Chapter 172, health and sanitation, nuisances, bands, and musics. Ordinances, public hearing. 3644, general capital ordinance. 3645, increase fees for corrections to vital records. Resolutions, Title 59, disposal of recyclable materials. Award contract for disposal of recyclable materials. Title 59, approval, crossing guard services. Award contract, crossing guard services. Title 59, approval, parking transactions using mobile technology and other related services. Award contract, parking transactions using mobile technology and other related services. Award contract under state contract, carpeting police department. Award professional services contract, professional planner, affordable housing planning consultant. Award contract, eradication of bicycle lane markings, portion of westbound Garber Square. Award contract, animal control services, waterfowl management. Authorized planning board to prepare the redevelopment plan for Hudson Street parking lot. Approve lease of Pease Building, first floor and balcony. Endorse application for community development block grant, Village of Ridgewood, tables for Patrick A. Mancuso, Senior Center. Appoint municipal recycling coordinator, appoint member to Parks, Recreation, and Conservation Board. Is there anything you would like on a consent agenda? Off the consent agenda, rather? Nothing?
I think we're good.
Thank you.
All right, actually, before we go to public comments, I was remiss in not thanking Tyco and our Ridgewood Police Department, Ridgewood Fire Department, emergency responders, and everyone else who was involved in saving the bear that was frolicking on the historic Circle Avenue streetscape yesterday. It was quite the neighborhood event and very exciting, but the public safety was intact, all of our residents were safe, and the bear was properly tranquilized and brought to his new home, and everything worked out in the end quite well. So we just have to thank everyone for their commitment, even the health department, everyone who was involved. And with that, we go back to public comment.
Diane Palacios, 342 North Van Dien Avenue. As I was listening to Susan Knudsen, I was reminded of the famous poem by Rudyard Kipling entitled If. I'm sure that most of you know it's very famous.
Excuse me, could you speak into the microphone, please?
Just pull that microphone down. Just pull that microphone down a little so that you're speaking into
like
it.
this?
Perfect, that's
Thank
better.
you. Okay. Well, I was reminded of the poem If as I was listening to Susan Knudsen, our mayor, and how she was treated. I was reminded of that poem as I watched her endure the slings and arrows of hostile negative criticism at council meetings and during comment sessions at council meetings and in mass mailings sent to Ridgewood residents. Never in the 4 decades of my living in Ridgewood have I seen a candidate subjected to such harsh attacks on their integrity, such mudslinging, and unjustified, by the way. Now, certain lines of the poem seemed particularly applicable to Mayor Knudsen's situation. Or being lied about, don't deal in lies. Or being hated, don't give way to hating. If you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools. Mayor Knudsen consistently responded to her attackers with dignity and civility, never lashing out with anger or resorting to insults. Rather, she calmly defended her record with facts and logic. Most importantly, throughout all the tumult surrounding her, she continued her work for the betterment of Ridgewood and its residents with the same deliberation, and this goes for Michael Seaton, the deliberation and utmost dedication that has characterized her tenure from the beginning. Now, Harwin made this little rhyme, shovels in the ground at a certain time for the parking lot. Well, that's not deliberation. Deliberation is mulling, when you're doing something really important that's vital to the town that I love and treasure, and moved here because it's charming and quaint and has a historical character that I don't want destroyed. Well, when you're dealing with something that's important, that is that important and affects future generations, then you have to be very deliberate. And I remember the day, the evening, when Michael Seaton said he had been mulling, found himself sitting at home, he was humorous about it, thinking about the town Ridgewood, New Jersey, thinking about his town. Just dawned into his head. And this is the way great thinkers work, whether it's Salk with the vaccine or Beethoven. They mull, they're deliberate, things come into their head. It's like a breakthrough. And he remembered, Michael Seaton remembered, that there was a design for the parking lot that fit the Hudson City, a design for the garage that fit the Hudson City lot. Now, I don't want my town mutilated. The other people said 6 feet, and then you're going to make a tiny road and, I guess, emergency vehicles, but I don't want my town mutilated. I don't want my town destroyed and mutilated and then patched up in some ugly way. I want to keep Ridgewood as quaint and charming a village as it is now. And people say it's not quaint and charming. Hey, I think it is. And that parking garage should fit the footprint, and that will keep Ridgewood charming and keep the historical character, and above all, it is satisfying everybody, the people who want a parking garage and the people who don't. I was one of the people that didn't. But this satisfies me because it's not destroying the character of Ridgewood, and it's supplying the people who want the parking garage with what they need. It is absolutely perfect. Another example of what Seaton and Knutson did was to go along with the ad hoc committee in developing Shedler. Now, to be perfectly open about this, I didn't want Shedler developed at all because I feel that there's a shortage of wildscape going on in the whole country, but they developed it in a way to put a small playing field. Everybody else wanted 90 feet or something, whatever it is, and chop down, clear cutting of the trees and have sound barriers and all that, which I was very much against. But they did it in a way that brings everybody together. They listen to the residents. People talk about, as I said, vision for the future, fresh voices, but these people listen to what the residents want, and they...
Thank you, Diane. I'm sorry, the beeper.
Is that it?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, so let's have a landslide vote
Thank you.
and make them win.
Thank you.
Yeah, Rurik Holiday 374. I must admit, If is my favorite poem. I do look at it differently from this wonderful lady and the impassioned speech she gave. And while I disagree with her, I felt very good listening to her. I think she had some good points. Now let's talk about civility. Civility is more than Alphonse and Gaston. After you, no, after you. Civility is more than a big smile on someone's face while you're stabbing him in the back. Okay? Civility is integrity. Civility is caring. Civility is honesty. There's nothing civil when the mayor and deputy mayor say fact. The accusation of colluding with Our Lady of Mount Carmel by rigging a raffle for an illegal payoff to the mayor is unconscionable and outrageous. This is a blatant lie. No one that I know of, no one, period, ever said there was collusion. The first time this question was raised was by me when I heard that the mayor had won a $25,000 raffle from a charity associated with the church. Now, to me, by definition, a raffle is for a good cause, and you take your winnings from a raffle and you give it back to that charity. This is my thought. Now, also, the optics of winning a raffle from an organization whose cause he supported just doesn't look good. So my point is, then this got twisted, frankly, by Mr. Haché when he started talking about collusion and how his church was insulted. No one talked about the church. Hans-Jürgen Lehmann said nothing about any collusion with the church. I honestly think the mayor and deputy mayor should apologize to the church and to the public for talking about collusion. Could someone tell me who said there was collusion between the church and you? Did you? Did anyone?
I don't know if somebody wants to raise their hand, they're welcome to. The person who did could raise their hand, but that's okay.
No one said there was collusion.
Well, the person
Collusion means that you and whoever picked the ticket got together. How could you prove that? I mean, this is a stupid thing to say or even claim. You can't say there is collusion. Did you say there is collusion? No one said there is collusion.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We'll just keep moving on. But if the person wants to raise their hand, they're welcome to. They know who they are.
But the way you make it out to be that people were talking about collusion. There was no collusion. There was no collusion. Okay? And so when you're talking about civility, being honest with the public is the most civil thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Raise your hand.
Hans-Jürgen Lehmann, 234 Union Street. I just wanted to talk a little bit about something that came up at the forum on Monday, and it had to do with gay pride banner, and, which has been, I guess, kind of a contentious issue in the past. But I think it was you, Mayor, who said that the banner would certainly be placed in its same location this year, and you said it with a kind of utter certainty, okay? So I wondered, has the council weighed in on this decision? Has that something that's been discussed? I mean, does it take a vote to do this or not? I don't know, so it came up at the forum, and I'm not sure exactly how this is being handled. Is it possible to get an answer tonight about this, or?
This is public comment.
You got it. So the second issue that I was interested in has to do with the garage. So I was here last week, and the presentation for the garage was, I thought it was a very nice design. I really liked it a lot. I genuinely don't feel like it gives us what we want in terms of the number of spaces, but, that's an issue for other consideration. But I was wondering, did you abandon the competitive bidding process? It's my understanding that that's come and gone, that's not under consideration at this point. And that there was some talk about declaring the area, the Hudson Street parking lot, a redevelopment zone. I don't know where that's at. I don't know if that's been done. I would be concerned if the proper procedures aren't followed in that. And I am very concerned that the competitive bidding process may have gone by the wayside in this matter. I'll just chime in one more time about the collusion piece. I made it very clear at last week's meeting that I never would use the word collusion. I made it very clear that in what I wrote, the word collusion was never there. There was no inference of collusion. I made it very clear that I would never, in my wildest dreams, concoct the idea that a religious institution, Mr. Haché's House of Worship, and I think all five of you actually, that church via the school in Glen Rock would ever do anything like that. And the idea that you write in your mailer that you sent out that somehow someone said that the raffle was rigged for an illegal payoff, where does that come from? It doesn't come from anyone I know. It doesn't come from anyone I've spoken to. So I can only imagine that you've made it up. Thank you.
So just for the record, come on up. Come on up. Maybe we'll have a heart-to-heart.
Delzio. This is public comments. Is the mayor asking me a question?
No, I just said come on up. I thought you were walking to the...
You were motioning me to speak
because you were
before.
coming up. I didn't think anybody else was coming up, so I said, come on up.
Okay, fine. It's public comments.
Public comment. You're public.
An easy, simple answer to this entire Mount Carmel question is if you had recused yourself. It would have been over in 5 minutes and no one would have talked about this. To accept $25 in that instance, let alone $25,000, regardless, the optics are miserable. You would never do that as a public official. And to answer the question from before, why has the mayor endured more criticism than the last 40 years of public officials? Why is that? Why has the mayor endured more criticism than the last 40 years of public officials? Here's a really simple answer, really simple and really short. There was a past mayor of Ridgewood, Keith Killian, long history of service by both him and his family, including the police, but as mayor. What did Keith Killian, mayor, do when matters of civil service, including the police, came before the council? Answer: he recused himself. It's quite simple.
So just for the record, I'm sorry, come on up, sorry. See, same thing happened. Come on up. Everybody's welcome to come to public comment tonight.
Good evening, Boyd Loving, 342 South Irving Street. I would also like to make a shout out to the police department and fire department and emergency services with respect to the incident at 15 Circle Avenue the other day. They did a great job. You have to remember, they were unable to catch the bear in Paramus, but in Ridgewood we got it, right? We got it. And Lieutenant Heath James in the back was the patrol supervisor that day, and I was at the scene when Heath arrived, and he took charge immediately and knew exactly what to do in terms of securing a perimeter, ordering the lockdown of the nearby schools, so we did a great job. Didn't happen in Paramus, but it did happen in Ridgewood, and the bear was safe. So again, police department, fire department, emergency services did a great job that day, and I think we should all be proud. And there's been talk about taxes. Tax dollars go to that kind of service. We have that kind of service in Ridgewood where they know what they're doing. So again, great job by everybody who was involved. I would like to comment, the deputy clerk did read that ordinance 3646 is going to be introduced this week. I know that 3 of you had some concerns about the parking, the valet parking, so I'm wondering why we would introduce an ordinance when there are questions unanswered. Right. There is no work session between now and next week where these questions can be resolved, so I would respectfully request that that ordinance not be introduced. I don't know if there's a rush to get on with it, and let's have the questions answered before we introduce the ordinance into the books. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for the photos yesterday, all good. Just for point of clarification, one more time, for the umpteenth time, I don't know how many times we can say it, the Academy of Our Lady School is in Glen Rock. I bought a ticket from Academy of Our Lady in Glen Rock. I don't know ad nauseum how many times we have to say it, and nothing to do with Mount Carmel. It's just merely where I bought the ticket. So we appreciate that. There's no shouting from the audience. We'll take that as a point of order. And there's no calls from the audience, point of order, and with that, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved. All in
Motion?
favor? Yep, we have a second.
All in favor?
All in
Anyone
favor? Aye.
opposed? Thank you.